Hi guys, I'm Chantel and I vlog over at Intentional Homeschooling, and today I want to talk about how I teach my kids English, language arts, even though we unschool. Now, often people really like the idea of unschooling, but when it comes down to it, they're like, but how do you teach English, or how do you teach math, or how do your kids learn science? And so for this next few weeks, every Friday I want to share a different video tackling one of the subjects and share how we go about it in our home and our homeschool, and some of our favorite resources on the topic as well. So surprisingly, when I put this on Instagram, I thought everyone was going to ask for math to be the first one, because often that is where people seem to struggle the most or have the most fear. But I think most of the comments were about English and language arts, so that's what we're going to start with today. So some people wanted me to share how we teach spelling and grammar. Other people want to know about learning to read, and I am going to do learning to read in a separate video because that is like a topic all on its own. So that will be coming sometime after the series probably. Yeah, so spelling, grammar, and I don't remember what else specifically, but here's the thing. I don't really teach my kids that. We don't do spelling tests. I honestly don't really care how well my kids spell at the ages that they are. So they're currently going into grade 2 and grade 5. And I think that I have, what's the right word here? Because of my experiences in school and with spelling, I was a terrible speller. That's really bright. I was a terrible speller all through elementary, all through high school. It wasn't until grade 11, 12, and out of high school that I finally things clicked in my brain as far as spelling goes. Even though I studied my spelling words and my parents got me to, we did practice spelling tests at home, and every word that I got wrong, I had to practice 10 times writing it the right way. And, we did all the right things, but my brain just couldn't get it. And because I know that just leaving it actually worked out really well for me, I'm not too concerned about spelling for my kids. Now, if my kids want to know how to spell a word, obviously I'll tell them the right way. And if they're writing the same word wrong over and over and over again, I will tell them the right way, correct them. Sometimes I'll write it down and we'll put it up somewhere for them to see. But I don't see the point in doing spelling tests or just getting them to practice words over and over again. In my mind, especially as far as English language goes, the best way for them to learn is to expose them to the English language. So obviously we speak English. I correct them if they say something wrong. But for us, the biggest thing in our homeschool is books. We read a lot of books together. We listen to a lot of audiobooks together, and my kids listen to audiobooks on their own. And just constantly immersing ourselves with great language seems to be the best way for us to learn. I'm gonna get to the resources here in a minute, but as far as creative writing and stuff goes, for me, I feel that just comes naturally to my kids. And one of my big tips is one of mine is really good with fine motor and writing, and the other one struggles more. So if the one that struggles more wants to write a story, for example, or has the story in mind, I prefer, it works better, it's less frustrating, for me to type out the story or me to write down the story, for them to tell it to me, and for me to write it instead of making them write it out by hand, because then that just leads to frustration and the creative ideas that were there are just gone. So before you think we don't do anything in our homeschool or home and our kids don't learn any kind of English thing, I want to get into the resources that I pulled out that I would like to share and kind of show you how we use them. Unfortunately, they're not really in any kind of order. I just put the smaller ones on top. So the first thing I have here is the story cubes. Now you can make your own cubes, make your own story rocks. There's all sorts of ideas. But what this is it's just 9 cubes with different designs on them, and obviously each side has a different picture, and you roll them out and you make a story. Now you can make a story using all 9. You can just roll a few of them. You can make short stories, you can make long stories, you can make stories up together where each person says like a sentence, and then the next person gets the next cube and says a sentence. This is really good for, inspiring creativity, especially if you do it together. You can also like model this creativity to your kids. And these are a fun little thing. You totally don't have to buy the story cubes, but just this general idea. Next, what I have here, this is from a game called Nabbit. I bought it at the thrift store a really long time ago, and we didn't like to play it, but really I just kept the letter pieces, and they're just like all the different letters of the alphabet, and each side has a different letter, and we can make words this way. Another really great game, when we don't own, like losing letters in my chair here, when we don't own, there we go, let's put those down, is bananagrams. Now, we've played this a number of times together and really enjoy it, but we don't own it. But we could totally use these to play the game. This is double-sided, so like it would have some modifications, but it would actually maybe work a little better for kids as well. So it's anything where you're, giving them letters and creating words in some kind of fun way. Actually, on that note, I'll dig it to the bottom of my pile here. A really good game for younger kids is Scrabble Junior. We've played this one a ton with the kids, and also just regular Scrabble when they get older as well. Or there's also the card game that we have, but I didn't pull that one out. The Scrabble Junior is good because it gives you ideas of words to spell, and you don't have to be as creative, but you're learning different spelling and different sound families. And yeah, so we've played this one quite a bit. One of the resources we have the most fun with are like stories where you fill in different words. There is totally a name for this that I'm just like totally blanking on right now, so I'll just put it up on the screen if there's actually a name, and I'm just, losing it right now. But it has a story, and it tells you to insert an adjective or a body part or a verb, and I found this was a great way to learn parts of speech for kids. I don't know, I don't really see the point in kids learning parts of speech when they're really young, because I just don't find it incredibly useful, and so why force it on them? But this is a really fun way to do it. And I'm sorry about the lighting. It's just like cloudy, clouds coming and going. It's just gonna be what it is today. So yeah, there are some of these online you can get for free. I can leave a link below. Actually, I'm gonna try to like link everything below. And these ones are National Geographic ones that we often find at the Dollarama. I just kind of like pick these kinds of things up when I see them. And speaking of parts of speech, a fun way to do it is this book called Grammarland, and in it there is a judge, and I believe, is it noun? Someone is on trial, and every part of speech is a person, and so they kind of talk about that, about their job as a part of speech. Quite a bit, so this is kind of a fun way to do it. I would say this is for probably like grades 4 or 5 and up. A fun book we have is Everything You Need to Ace English Language Arts. We have a couple of the different subjects in this series. We don't go through it all the time, but I think it's a good thing to have as a resource that my kids can look through. It just covers everything. So we can use this if we have questions. Instead of going to Google, we can go to this. It's also kind of something that as my kids get older, and now as my daughter's getting into grade 5, I plan on kind of like maybe leaving this out to a page and maybe like having an activity along with it. I've been strewing an activity for them each morning, so just leaving something on the table, not forcing them to do it, but just having it there and also having it interesting so that they would want to do it. And so I might use this in the future for that. We have this Usborne, my very first story writing book. This is a fun book that my daughter, she used back when she was in kindergarten. And it gives you like all sorts of ideas on like how to describe things, what words would you use to describe these things. So it's just getting kids to be creative in their story writing. She's filled in like the first part of the story, or the first part of the book, and then has left the rest. But I think it's a really good resource that we can continue to use over the years as we write different creative stories. For kids that are younger, I really like wipe clean books. We have had these Usborne wipe clean books forever. They are so good to take along to church or different activities like waiting rooms and stuff. So I like to start with dot to dots. Ooh, that one page was stuck together. Dot to dots, or mazes for kids that are like not really writing yet, but are working on their fine motor skills. And then we have the alphabet one. We have a ton of these. These ones are older now. I think I bought them probably like 5+ years ago already. And I think they have newer versions, but I really love all the Usborne Wipe Clean books. Actually, speaking of, they now have like these older ones. This one's for age 6 to 7 and 5 to 6. So they're Wipe Clean. This one's grammar and punctuation, and also grammar and punctuation. So just different things for as kids get a little older. These ones we haven't used as much because my kids are kind of out of that stage where they need to take Wipe Clean books with them places, but they're fun to have. The like biggest resource I have, this is my son's notebook. It's just a notebook. I have learned that dictation, so me saying a word or a line, or depending on the kid, like a letter, and getting them to write it out, is really good for fine motor and learning letters. And you know, if they need you to explain, okay, you write this word this way, or this letter this way, and this word is spelled this way, or the word is, how do you spell that? So what I've been doing this year, actually, because this is something my son needs to work on, we have been taking different Bible verses, and every day he writes sometimes a verse, sometimes a couple of lines of a verse, depending how long it is. And I tell him what the word is, and if it's a longer word, I'll tell him which letters come next. If it's a shorter word, I'll get him to spell it out, but I'm making sure that he's writing it properly and like writing the letters in the correct order, as well as like writing the words correctly. And this has helped his fine motor and his printing ability so much. If you want to teach cursive, my daughter keeps saying she wants to learn cursive and then changing her mind. I think I got this from the dollar store. It's just a cursive writing, like you got a page where you copy one letter and another page for another letter, and it kind of brings it all together. I understand that some people want their kids to learn cursive, but as an adult, I really can't handwrite, nor do I see any reason to. So I don't really care if my kids know how to. I think they should like know how to read it, but I don't care very much if they can actually do it. That's totally personal preference. Okay, and then the last resource I have to share, this is the Brick Shakespeare books. These are just, I think, 8 of the Shakespeare stories told with Lego characters. Now, oof, these books are heavy. Really what this represents to me is that the best way to introduce kids to stories, especially stories that are harder, like longer classics or like Shakespeare, is to do it in a way that's interesting to them. My kids love Lego. So, you know, getting the Lego story, then they can read through the Lego story and it makes more sense when they go and read the real story. That's like, I find the Action Bible, my kids understand the real Bible so much more because they have read the Action Bible. So these are like anything, any kind of classic that is abridged. For a long time, I thought, no, like they need the original language. They need to know it this way. I think you work your way there. Like I've changed my mind over the years. I think you do it in a way that is interesting and understand it. They can understand it at where they're at now. And then as they get older, you introduce them to like the actual texts. So that's something that's changed over the years. And I think I wish I would have caught on to that sooner, because I think that would have been helpful. Okay, so those are all of the English language arts resources I'm going to share right now. Oh, one other thing actually. We have a Bluetooth speaker that we use every single day at lunch and at supper because we listen to an audiobook together as a family. And any audiobook resource that we have is just spectacular. It has helped my kids' vocabulary so much. They, like I said before, they listen on their own. We listen together as a family. I love the speaker that we have because we have had it for years and probably only charge it like maybe once every 9 months. Like the battery is so awesome and we use it all the time. So other than tons of books, which, I mean, if you want book lists, I have tons on my site, or I have like a few here on this channel. These are like some of our main language arts resources. And I hope this was helpful. I feel like some of the other subjects will be easier to do this on because for me, English is just like so a part of our everyday. I hardly even think about when we're doing it. One fun thing, speaking of like unschooling and English, the other day I was at the park with my son, and the playground that we were at had a thing that you turn and there's different letters in there. So I just asked him like, okay, can you spell a word that starts with an M or whatever? And then he was just working on that. I'm like, you can learn anywhere you go. You know, when I was teaching my kids to read, which I will do a different video yet, but like my son would just like point out certain letters and be like, oh, that says D. And you know, you don't need a ton of resources. You can learn all the subjects, especially your language that of the place that you live in, wherever you are, because the resources are all around you. Okay, so I hope that was helpful, and I hope you come back next week for, I think I'm probably gonna do math next week. Thanks for watching, guys.